The KXAN News Podcast is sponsored by Shelf Genie. In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News Today.
Cooler temperatures are on the way as our weather for the rest of the week is shifting. Thanks for being with us. I'm Tom Miller.
I'm Sally Etnon. This meteorologist Kristen Curry's here. The temperature is dropping, but you're watching a possibility of something else that's coming at Central Texas.
Yes, I think the possibility of strong storms will come first. Massive storm system really not only impacting us, but large chunk of the United States. So wanted to show you some of the tornado damage left behind in northern Illinois. The National Weather Service says the aftermath shows the work of an EF2 tornado. You can see the front wall of the convenience store just collapsed after the roof of a gas station was also ripped off in the area, slamming into it. There are reports of more significant damage to other businesses and homes. Now, we knew that the bulk of the storm was going to go to the north and that the cold front was going to impact us. That is now moving into the hill country. You could see those storms and showers up towards San Saba and Mason County, even a couple of thunderstorms there north of San Saba. And this will be something to watch because as that cold front pushes south and east, those thunderstorms get closer and closer to the I-35 corridor. There is going to be a low risk of severe weather this morning. It's something I'm going to keep an eye on. We do have a lot of humidity out there for these storms to work with. A cloudy sky as seen from our ND domain camera. And look at the warmth. We're still sitting well into the 70s there. Rockdale, Cameron, Georgetown, Austin, all at 75, 74 in Burnett, 75 to 76 out towards Flatonia and LaGrange. So plenty of warmth, plenty of moisture. As far as what we're dealing with when it comes to the temperature change, you're going to feel it after the cold front. So this morning is very mild. This afternoon, it's not going to be cold, but it's certainly going to be cooler than the 90s we had yesterday. Here's an updated look at that severe storm threat. And as you can see, it has been brought down from that 2 out of 5 risk to a 1 out of 5 risk this morning for areas along and east of I-35, but we still need to be very cautious of some of those storms bringing hail and the risk of damaging wind this morning. Then it'll be all about the fire danger this afternoon. A very active weather day for us here in the Central Texas area, and we're going to be talking more about it coming up in your first morning forecast.
Kristen, thank you. Former President Trump describing his arraignment yesterday as a, quote, surreal experience after hearing the 34 felony charges against him relating to hush money payments surrounding the 2016 election.
And NBC News' Garrett Hake was inside the courtroom as Trump entered his not guilty plea and reports for us from New York City.
Good morning. Mr. Trump himself described it as a surreal experience, watching a former commander-in-chief become a criminal defendant. Now, the hearing in the courtroom behind me lasted a little bit less than an hour. The former president, stern-faced, arms crossed across his chest for much of it as he heard the 34 counts against him read into the record for the first time. We heard from prosecutors as well about Mr. Trump's rhetoric, a warning from the judge, the reaction from Mr. Trump and his supporters, all coming up this morning on Today.
Also today, it marks a week since state troopers started helping patrol Austin streets, and we now have a breakdown of how many arrests they've made.
We do. KXAN's Brianna Hall is showing us what the arrests were for and how city leaders say things are going so far.
Thursday through Sunday, about 350 people were booked into the Travis County Jail, according to the Sheriff's Office. DPS booked 61, which includes 7 arrests for possession of marijuana under 2 ounces. TCSO told us those people also faced additional charges. Austin criminal defense attorney Rick Kofer brought up concerns about those drug arrests, worried about the focus of the DPS patrols.
What I would characterize as non-traditional arrests for Austin, Texas. And by that, I mean people being arrested after routine traffic violations for possession of very, very small amounts of controlled substances.
We asked the Sheriff's Office and DPS about those concerns. DPS says troopers conducted 1,570 traffic stops in Austin between March 30th and April 3rd, issuing 765 citations and making 83 arrests. Troopers cite and release anything under 4 ounces of marijuana. We went to the courthouse to take a look at some of the DPS drug arrest affidavits. The court documents reveal DPS made drug arrests after traffic stops for speeding and broken brake lights, as well as surveillance operations. When a trooper pulled a driver over for the broken brake light, he says he smelled marijuana and found a tube containing the drug. He also said he found 1.8 grams of meth and less than a gram of cocaine. DPS says the department has seized a total of 174 grams of cocaine, 40 grams of heroin, and nearly 130,000 grams of meth since the partnership started. Brianna Hollis, KXAN News.
Thanks, Brianna. So APD says it did feel some relief with DPS's help this weekend, but also, of course, there is something to note. The CMT Awards and other large events were in town, so that may have led to more arrest. In a statement, the city of Austin says the majority of the DPS arrests so far have been for serious felony cases and arrests. And both agencies have policies on not arresting people solely for those low-level marijuana possessions in Travis County. Going in depth, in May of 2022, Austin voters decided to pass Proposition A that does stop the arrest for low-level marijuana offenses. It came after a city policy in 2020 when the police decided to no longer cite or arrest those accused of misdemeanor pot offenses. The chief at the time, Chief Acevedo, pointed to a 2019 Texas House bill that authorized the production, manufacturing, and the sale of hemp products. And shortly after, DPS decided to prioritize resources on processing felony drug cases, not misdemeanor marijuana offenses.
Easter weekend is almost here, and parents in Hays County can celebrate and get another sense of safety for their child. Hays County Crime Stoppers is offering easy child registration at the Hays County Easter egg hunt on Sunday. The Easy Child ID system uses digital fingerprints and photos to create identification cards for kids. Parents can use this system to print ID cards on the spot or to put information into a thumb drive. Parents can register at the Crime Stoppers booth starting at 11 in the morning.
Where state lawmakers stand when it comes to bills that could affect some health care options for transgender children.
And where things stand and what could change when it comes to teacher pay raises in Texas.
Good morning, everyone. A live look this morning from our camera on top of the Indeed building, staring at the domain right there. Kristen has the latest when it comes to your forecast and some changes that you need to know about. Well, the Texas House will soon take up a bill banning some treatment options for transgender children.
This would restrict puberty-blocking medication, hormone therapy, and surgeries transitioning a child's biological sex. The state Senate passed this yesterday. Bill calls for doctors to lose their state medical license for providing these options. It would also prevent state health insurance plans from covering these services.
And lawmakers continue to talk about whether to restrict where drug shows happen here in Texas. Right now, there is trouble, though, finding middle ground.
If it appeals to the prurient interest and meets any of those above prongs, it's captured by the bill. Because this is about protecting children. What should be done in the presence of children?
Man, I'm telling you, I've been all about this session about protecting children, my friend, and we haven't done a whole lot of protecting the children when it comes to guns and ammunition.
Cheers in the crowd there, but that led to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick gaveling and reminding gallery people to stop with the outbursts. This bill is focused on restricting and defining sexually oriented performances, and it does include language related to drag shows. The bill passed the Senate on a preliminary vote.
For the first time, we are hearing from the Nashville police officers who stopped a killer. Their reactions after they responded to that school shooting that killed 6 people.
Popular bar in West Campus is getting demolished to make room for a high-rise. What's going to happen next to the beloved Cain and Abel's?
Texas baseball playing long ball at the Dish on Tuesday. I've got more on that coming up.
This KXAN News podcast is brought to you by Shelf Genie. I'm Rosie Newberry from KXAN Studio 512. Considering replacing your kitchen cabinets? Struggling to find or reach things? Go to shelfgenie.com/Austin. Shelf Genie designs custom pull-out shelves for your existing cabinets, adding convenience and value to the most used room in your home. Shelf Genie custom pull-out shelves, everything in reach.
Hey, good morning, everyone. On this Wednesday, April the 5th, Kristen is back with a check on your weather in just the next few minutes. But first, let's talk about something that is really cool, how NASA recently introduced those 4 astronauts who are going to orbit the moon as the crew of Artemis 2.
And as Candace Sweat reports, one of those astronauts has strong Texas ties and will make history for the second time.
We're here today with a mission to introduce the world to the crew of Artemis II.
And with that, the mission was set in motion. The crew of 4 will do what hasn't been done in some 50 years.
We need to celebrate this moment in human history.
Astronaut Victor Glover will take on the role as pilot for the Artemis II flight, set to launch around the moon sometime in late 2024.
And it's so much more than the 4 names that have been announced.
Glover will be the first black astronaut to the moon. Here in North Texas, his father, Victor Glover Sr., says pride is an understatement.
Watching the announcement this morning, I had tears running down my face because excited and emotional at the same time.
The last time we caught up with the senior Glover was in 2021, when his son made history as the first black astronaut to complete a long-term stay aboard the International Space Station. From his home in Prosper, Texas, Glover tells us this again is special. His son as one of the first, and NASA's first woman to the moon, Christina Koch.
These astronauts and what they do inspire a whole generation of kids to want to be to where they are.
For space exploration enthusiasts, this is massive.
This is just one big piece of a much larger puzzle.
Ken Ruffin is president of the National Space Society of North Texas. He affirmed what NASA has said for decades. This is a marathon.
On the big picture, the biggest stage you can imagine, it's about preserving humanity, preserving life as we know it.
As for why the general population should care,
there's so many space technologies that people are using on a daily basis, and things that would not exist were it not for space technology.
Ruffin will watch anxiously along with Glover Sr. in 2024, another mission to go down in history.
The exploration we're doing is the first few steps on the path of getting humans to Mars, and I don't think that can be overstated.
It's incredible. And another thing that's just cool about that mission is it's going to be the farthest that humans have ever been from Earth, because they're going to be on the far side of the moon, orbiting around it.
It's about time we went back.
Exactly.
It's about time too. They have a woman going to the moon, and
Yes.
just the diversity of that crew makes you proud.
Absolutely. Let me show you what's going on with your forecast here, because we have a busy morning ahead of us. Cold fronts here, line of storms already moving into the hill country. If I zoom this down, Lampasas, San Saba, Mason, you can see this line stretched from pretty much northern Lampasas all the way down into just far northwestern Gillespie County. Now, this line is going to continue to move towards the south and east, meaning it'll get closer to the I-35 corridor as we get closer to peak rush hours. So I would not consider it a bad idea to factor in at least 5-10 extra minutes for your morning drive to work or school this morning, just because we know even a little bit of rain causes problems. And at this point, it's likely we're going to get some rain within the next couple of hours. 75 degrees right now, humidity high, southeast winds for now. Those winds will turn out of the north once that cold front passes. Rain chances look best this morning at about 40 to 50%. You'll notice, though, the temperature climb not nearly as impressive as what we had yesterday. From the 60s late morning to the upper 70s this afternoon, we are going to stay far from the 90s we had yesterday and the day prior. Let's talk about these storm chances, because as I put this into motion, you'll notice a high resolution model showing those storms filling in over the hill country, approaching the I-35 corridor, 6, 7, 8 a.m. and then into our eastern counties thereafter about 9, 10 a.m. before the heaviest of the rain clears. Just going to go with the 10% chance of a lingering shower later in the afternoon. However, rain chances come back in a very big way tomorrow, so don't put away the rain gear just yet. I think there's pretty good chance you're going to want the umbrella Thursday into Friday. Now, that being said, the severe storm threat has been lowered for us here in Central Texas. It's just going to be a 1 out of 5 concern for areas along and east of I-35. So clearly on the tail end of this system, but we could still squeeze out some hail, some winds out of these storms that we have moving through this morning. I'm not seeing a tornado threat with it, which is the good news, but if a storm were to turn strong or even severe, I will be sure to let you know. Now, I will tell you that's just the first concern. The second concern will fill in behind the cold front, and that's going to be very high fire danger. We've got a red flag warning in place for the I-35 corridor and areas pointing westward. So Hill Country, Austin Metro, we've got high winds and low humidity filling in behind the front, which means if a wildfire were to spark, we would run into some trouble very quickly with these environmental conditions. So please refrain from any open flames. Do know winds are going to be coming out of the north, gusting 25 to 35 miles per hour today. Still pretty breezy again tomorrow. Thursday and Friday, we're going to be looking at breezy to windy conditions. Now, we're also going to be looking at some darn good rain chances from 40% pretty much this morning to 80% all day Thursday and even into Friday. Friday up to 90%. Now, this isn't going to mean rain every hour. It's just going to be the chance is certainly going to be there for Thursday and Friday to see these on and off showers and thunderstorms. A much lower severe weather risk Thursday into Friday, but temperatures, a huge shocker, going from 70s today to 50s as high temperatures tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a chilly end to the work week. You'll notice, though, we get the wet weather out of the way for the work week for your Easter holiday weekend. High temperatures getting back in the 70s. The rain chances disappear. We're talking sunshine in 80s again by early next week, and your overnight lows will be in the 50s. So make sure you're staying with us here in KXAN News today as we continue to monitor these storms impacting your morning drive.
Families of children killed in the Uvalde and Santa Fe school shootings here in Texas continue to push for gun safety legislation. Democrat Roland Gutierrez filed nearly 24 bills to regulate firearms, including a proposal to raise the age to buy a gun to 21. He and the victims' families are asking supporters to call their state reps now to rally up support.
3 days before I buried my daughter, I addressed Congress to call for sensible gun laws. In closing, I said, somewhere out there, there's a man or there's a mom listening to our testimony, thinking I can't even imagine their pain, not knowing our reality will one day be hers unless we act now.
Top Republicans in the House and in the Senate are backing bills to add armed law enforcement in every school, all campuses, require mental health training for teachers, and fund security improvements on campuses. Those bills have wide bipartisan support.
For the first time, we are hearing from the Nashville police officers who stopped a killer. They responded to that deadly mass shooting last week at an elementary school.
I couldn't get to it fast enough.
Not knowing what I was walking into, I went through that door with purpose.
Saw shell casings on the ground, bullet holes on the door, so I immediately made entry. Once we started hearing the first shots, that's when everything kind of kicked into overdrive for us.
Officer Rex Egelbert, Detective Michael Colazzo, and Detective Sergeant Jeff Mathis charged into the Covenant School. That shooter had already killed 6 people, including 3 children. The officers' quick response is being called heroic, putting their own lives on the line without hesitation.
Me personally, I took an oath on June 4th of 2012 to serve and protect this community. My family sometimes comes second. It has to.
Authorities say that the shooter was planning this attack for months. Leaders in the Texas legislature say that they want to prioritize more money for teachers.
Yeah, right now the struggle, though, is to keep those teachers in the classroom. There's a bill that would adjust the teacher incentive allotment. It gives higher pay to high-performing teachers, but some question if this is really the right way to address low wages.
We don't support the continued expansion of the TIA while all teachers remain underpaid. According to TEA's own estimates in the Rider for House Bill 1, fewer than 4% of teachers will be paid under TIA, while 100% of teachers need a pay raise.
That bill and another teacher salary bill are pending now in committee. During the news conference, the Texas Classroom Teachers Association took issue with one of the House bills. It says the bill, which would increase per student allotment by $50, doesn't do nearly enough.
The recommended or proposed increase in the basic allotment of $50 is not only offensive, it is sinister.
And that was the Pflugerville ISD board president, Jean Mayer. She said her district faces a $12 to $14 million deficit this next fiscal school year. And she added 5 school campuses nearly closed due to the lack of funding.
The legislature last raised teacher pay in 2019. The TEA says teachers with more than 5 years experience got an average pay raise of more than $5,200. Those with fewer than that got an extra $3,800.
This is KXAN Sports, brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Good morning to you. Texas baseball team back home, taking on Air Force, a program they faced 2 different times at home last year. in the regular season, then again in the postseason. In fact, they beat Air Force to make it to the Super Regional. Air Force with a lot of respect for the Texas program, who showed them so much respect last year in their 2 visits to Austin. Longhorn batters didn't want to show that pitching much respect after a frustrating weekend at Oklahoma State when they scored just 9 total runs. Peyton Powell with the home run, that's his 6th, and Texas up 3-1. Maybe the coolest moment of the night for Texas. Cam Constantine, part of the program since 2020, had never had a base hit as a Longhorn. He got his first one last night. Dylan Campbell, well, he's been hot the second half of this first half of the season, if you will. Campbell goes deep, his 6th home run. And, well, that house divided. I'm afraid the little one won there because Rylan Galvan goes deep, his 4th home run. Longhorns hit 3 homers of their 9 hits. They win it 7-1. That's 21 wins on the season now. And now it's back to the Big 12. It's a Thursday through Saturday series beginning tomorrow evening against Kansas State.
Thanks for joining KXAN News today. You can also listen to KXAN News Nightly every weekday after 5:30 p.m. for in-depth coverage on what matters most to you.